In a world still battling autoimmune diseases, cancer, and organ rejection, three scientists have created a framework which will be able to identify the body's security guard, or more specifically, can say immune system security guard, that will help us to understand that how body's immune system work. It will also help us to target the cancer cells and also reduce the diseases which are referred as autoimmune diseases. In this context, the first Nobel Prize of this year, of year 2025, has come out, and this Nobel Prize has been awarded in the field of medicine. And this is as per the tradition, because if you also look at the previous year, it is always the Nobel Prize in medicine that is awarded first, which is followed by physics, chemistry, and other fields as such. Now, in this particular year, we have three Nobel scholars, Nobel laureates who have received this prize. First is Mary Brunkow. Mary Brunkow works in Institute for Systems and Biology in Seattle, United States of America. Second winner is Fred Ramsdell. He works for the Sonoma Biotherapeutics, again in San Francisco of US. And then third is a Japanese scientist currently working in Osaka University of Japan, and is Shimon Sakaguchi. So in this year, this particular year, talk about the Nobel Prize in Medicine is being shared by these three scholars. Now, in this particular video, we are going to explain in detail that what is the work which they have conducted, due to which they have been awarded Nobel Prize, and how significant is it as far as the medical and medical science itself is concerned. Now, to give you the brief background of this particular topic, this is the first Nobel Prize of this particular year, and as we have discussed, these three scholars, they have worked in the area of human immune system, and also their more focus or core focus was to explain peripheral immune tolerance. We know that in the human's immune system, or basically inside our body, we have several cells that target any invaders, that is viruses, bacteria, pathogens, and all that. However, sometimes these cells start to malfunction and they start attacking the cells of our own body as well, and that results in the immune intolerance. This is the area of concern, and autoimmune diseases, cancer, and as far as transplant research is concerned, their work, their discovery is going to play a very stellar role. Now, if you first of all understand that what and how does our immune system work. Now, we know that the main function of immune system of human body is to detect, identify any microbes or pathogen that might have entered our body. This can be viruses, bacteria, or any other kind of pathogens as such. Then inside our body, we have a cell that is called as T cell. Why T cell? Because it is released by the thymus gland that is present behind your sternum. Now, these thymus gland produces T cells, which are generally believed to be of two types. These are called as helper T cells and killer T cells. Helper T cell basically circulate inside your entire body and detect that where any attack is taking place, where any pathogen is trying to enter. Then they send the signal to killer T cell. Killer T cell find these pathogens, bacteria, viruses, and attack them, destroy them, and this help body to get rid of any infection as such. Now, here the function of thymus gland was considered very, very important. Many times it was seen by scientists and doctors that the T cells are not able to identify between the foreign invaders, basically we can say foreign pathogens, and the body's own cell, and many times by mistake they start attacking body's own cell, causing disease that is referred as autoimmune disease. Many times if a person is transplanted with new organs, new cells, new tissues, many times the T cells are also considering them as a pathogen, as a foreign invader, and they began to attack these organs and cells, and that result into the organ transplantation failure. This is seen largely in the case of kidney transplant, liver transplant, and all that. So this is how we can understand the basic of immune system. Now, here the role of thymus was something that was considered most important as far as the early research was concerned. If you try to look at this particular diagram and image, you can see this is the thymus gland behind your sternum. This thymus gland is what produces the T cells that we have discussed. Above thymus gland, again you have two major glands, that is thyroid gland and the parathyroid gland. Now, when the research was conducted, it was found that the T cell actually use thymus as a training ground. That means before T cell can be circulated inside the in the bloodstream of human body, they have to be first all identified. That means thymus act as a gatekeeper. It ensures that only such T cells are released in bloodstream which are able to differentiate between the body's own cell and the foreign invaders. If any T cell is not able to differentiate between these, that means the thymus will not allow them to pass through the gate, pass through the screening gate inside the bloodstream. And thus, the self-reactive T cell, which can damage the body itself are destroyed within thymus as such, and that is why scientists have referred thymus gland as acting as an immune surveillance mechanism. Now, this was a prevalent belief, and here the work of the scientist and the recent scientists we can consider. But before that, I would want to bring your attention to the fact that Legacy as Academy, we're going to soon commence batches. Batch is going to start on 16th of October. This is going to be the regular weekday batch. Weekend batches are going to commence on 4th and 25th of October. In these batches, we ensure comprehensive coverage of all GS paper, one-to-one mentorship and doubt solving sessions if student is having certain doubts in certain difficult topics. Also, we have regular interaction with educators, and we know that the preparation of UPSC should be done in an integrated manner. That is why right from the beginning, we focus on ensuring daily mains and writing practice followed by evaluation. We also have test series for prelims and mains so the students can understand their strength, weaknesses, analyze these, and then further excel in the examination. If you want to know more detail about this course, features and programs, you can click the link in the description box of this video, or you can give a call to the number being displayed here on the screen. Now, coming back to this particular topic, as we have discussed that earlier, the role of thymus was considered the most important as far as the detection of the damaged T cell is concerned or self-reactive T cell is concerned. However, in the 1990s, the Japanese scientist Sakaguchi, about whom we have discussed before, he made a breakthrough discovery. He identified a third type of T cell. If you remember, I told you earlier that earlier it was two type of T cell that largely was believed to be existing inside body. One is the helper T cell, other is the killer T cell. Now he identified third T cell that he referred as regulatory T cell or T-rex as it is referred as. And he said that the function of this regulatory T cell is to suppress overactive immune response. That means what he did, he carried out experiments on mice from such mice whose thymus gland has been removed as such, and that is why we're calling it thymectomized mice. And when he carried out his research, he understood that the regulatory T cell act as an immune security guard. What it means is basically it is the job of regulatory T cells to explain, to understand that which T cells are there, which killer T cells are there, which will not be able to differentiate between body's own cell and the foreign cell. And that is why if such cells exist, the regulatory cells ask them to kind of calm down, ask them to suppress their activities, and that is why they act as a security guard, preventing body from autoimmune attacks. Now, in this context, somewhere far away from Japan, you have two other scientists, Brunkow and Ramsdell. They were doing similar kind of research, and their research was in the area of gene or genetics, and they understood a connection between the FOXP3 gene and the autoimmune system. So they also carried out studies on the sick male mice, and while carrying out a study, they identified a genetic mutation that is in the FOXP3 gene, and they identified that it is the same gene which is present in human body also, and mutation on these genes is responsible for what we call as IPEX syndrome. It is this IPEX syndrome that causes the autoimmune diseases, that causes the T cells to attack body's own cell, and thus the FOXP3 gene also becomes significant because it is this gene that regulates the development of regulatory T cell that was identified earlier in 1990s by Sakaguchi as such. So we can understand that how the linkages is being observed between the research carried out by these two scholars in US and the Japanese scholar in Japan as such. Now, what we know today is that for immune regulation, there is a genetic basis. That genetic basis is the FOXP3 gene, and FOXP3 gene also is able to regulate the development of regulatory T cells, about the existence of which was confirmed earlier by Sakaguchi in Japan. And that is why, because the collective work they have carried out for decades and decades, the Nobel Prize has been finally awarded. Now, if you try to understand again the integration of discoveries, FOXP3 control Treg formulation, Sakaguchi concept plus genetic mechanism is now considered in a comprehensive manner. The combined research will help us to get a much more complete immune model, how immune system of our body work, and this has given rise to a new field that scientists are referring as immunoregulation research. As such, it can also find a way or pave a way for novel therapies in different field of medicine. Now, what is the medical and clinical impact we can see in the future because of these breakthrough discoveries? Now, first of all, as we know, that we talk about the cancer, one of the deadliest diseases that exist and that affect the human population, and the number is continuously increasing, is cancer. So in cancer, what we actually see, that the cancer cells, when they start to develop inside the human body, they are being protected by the regulatory T cell. And as we have discussed, regulatory T cell do not allow the attacker or killer T cell to enter and kill or attack the foreign invaders as such. And that is why the cancer cells are able to evade the immune system, or immune system based attack in human body, are able to survive, grow, and finally causes the death of the person or damage to the human body as such. So if you are able to understand that how the regulatory T cells are working, how we can find a path through which we can bypass this protective barrier and can attack the cancer cells, then to some extent we can understand that the cure of cancer can very soon can be devised as such. Second breakthrough we can have in the autoimmune diseases. For example, you might have heard about Huntington disease. Huntington is an example of autoimmune diseases. Now, we know that autoimmune disease is because of the overactivity of killer T cells, and regulatory T cells basically are the cells that regulate the behavior of killer T cells. So if you're able to somehow boost the number of the regulatory T cells, we might be able to achieve immune balance. So that is also where the significance rises. Third, most important to know that many times due to the organ failures, organ transplantation became a very what you can call as a common solution, but many times body is not able to accept it, they reject it. That also causes the death of the receiver as such, organ receiver as such. So in this area also, by understanding and working on the around the T cell, especially regulatory T cell, we can find a solution for this. Stem cell therapies for immune modulation also is the active area of research where we can use this knowledge. Overall, we can say drug development, especially genetic treatment, can also be targeted here, because we know that there is a link between FOXP3 and the regulatory T cells. So that is how we can understand that is going to have a possible revolutionary impact, and Nobel Committee has identified this, has understood this, and that is why they recognize their hard work which they have carried out for decades and decades. And in 2025, these scientists have been awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. That is all about this particular video. If you like the video, please hit the like button, share with the fellow aspirants, subscribe to the channel for more such content. Thank you very much.